Hey there, everybody. It's Up All Night, a horror anthology podcast. I'm trying something new today with a video essay on Are You Afraid of the Dark? If you follow our podcast, you'll know that we've already covered every single episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps, and we're currently working our way through Tales from the Crypt. So for a line-by-line, scene-by-scene play of every episode sprinkled with hilarious jokes and all that, check us out. You can find a link to our podcast on Spotify in the description below. However, I wanted to take another look at some of those classic episodes from the shows I love so much. Are You Afraid of the Dark is a show I used to watch quite a bit growing up. There's always reruns on after school, and I frequently sat down with the family on Saturday nights for Snick, where my family and I watched new episodes as they aired. The 90s. What a time to be alive.
I'm going roller skating. Don't touch my stuff.
Anyways, I thought what better way to start than the very first episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of the Phantom Cab. But wait, actually this isn't the pilot for the show. The first true episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark was The Tale of the Twisted Claw, which premiered on October 31st, 1990 on the Canadian television network YTV, but later appeared on Nickelodeon in 1991. The Tale of the Phantom Cab didn't air until August 15th, 1992. So why not start with the pilot episode? Well, if you're a fan of Are You Afraid of the Dark, you may know that there's a lot of issues with the episode air order, kind of in general. Not only do we have the pilot episode releasing as the fourth episode in the United States, but later in the series we've got the Tale of the Dark music that really should have been the season 1 closer, on top of the Tale of the Night Shift showing up as episode 12 of 13 in season 5, when it was supposed to be the series closer. Now those are for the DVD release orders, but you can find all sorts of different listings online. It can actually be really confusing. Ultimately, it really doesn't matter. This is a horror anthology series after all. Most of these stories don't have any relation to one another, besides maybe the Tale of Cutter's Treasure, because that's a 2-parter in Season 4, and the Tale of the Silver Sight, which is a 3-parter in Season 7. Of course, we do have our Midnight Society and their antics at the beginning and the ending of each episode, but the show's creators, DJ MacHale and Ned Kendall, they really didn't keep them in mind so much when they were creating the show. It was all about the stories, and man, does Are You Afraid of the Dark have some great stories. If you're unfamiliar with the show, which honestly wouldn't make a lot of sense if you're watching this video right now, but it's about a group of teenagers that get together in the woods around a campfire. They have this incredible throne where each week one of the kids sits there and they tell a spooky story. It's a fantastic setup for a horror anthology style show. There's been a few reboot seasons for the most part that have ignored this premise and instead focus on the Midnight Society going through supernatural horrors and ghost stories of their own. And while I could complain about that and how it's not anything like this 90s gem, I think everybody online's already done that, so let's skip the reboots for now. Regardless, we're here to talk about the Tale of the Phantom Cab. Looking back, it really was the perfect choice for the show's premiere. Not only do we get an overall decent story, but it really introduces us to the Midnight Society and shows us exactly how things are going to be set up. Speaking of setup, the episode begins by introducing us to the Midnight Society, which is the group of kids that sit around the campfire, they tell the stories, and we get to watch what they're telling. Our narrator here is the leader, Gary, who explains who they are and what they're doing. We pan through each and every member, starting with Gary, the leader. Then we have Kiki, the tomboy, the cursed Eric, the sensitive David, and finally Betty Ann, who honestly is the best. Just trust me on that one. Oh yeah, and there's also Kristen. I kind of forgot about her. We see all the kids standing up and David ushers in their newest recruit, which is Frank. This marks a great introduction to the show because we get to see their initiation ceremony where they kidnap a kid, they blindfold them and drag them through the woods to their meeting grounds. They're a selective bunch and they require anybody potentially interested in joining their cult to tell them a scary story. If it's good enough, the kids will all give them a thumbs up. And just like that, they're in, and they can start collecting that sweet Nickelodeon paycheck.
$40?
$40?
All right, 35, but I'm losing on the deal.
Frank here's a tough guy, so he challenges the kids, asking if they're ready, and all the kids ooh and ah in response because they're sassy. It's great. So Frank here, he's got this bone chiller of a story. It's called
The Tale of the Phantom Cab.
The episode starts up and Frank details his characters for the tale. It's Denny, the way cooler older brother who's got a sweet backwards hat on, and his little brother, Buzz, who's lame, like real lame. I had a hard time differentiating these characters by name because when I hear Buzz, all I can think of is the brother from Home Alone, who is much better represented as the older brother in this episode, but they have it backwards. It's fine. All Buzz wants to do is show his big brother how awesome he is, so he forced his brother to go on a hiking trip through the Canadian wilderness, I guess. About 5 seconds into the tale, Buzz gets them lost because he doesn't know how to read a map. Now, in Buzz's defense, reading a map is next to impossible, so I totally get it. But we don't have to worry about all that crap because Buzz knocks a sprinkle of water over on the map and now it's officially ruined. So all we have left is his compass. Denny calls his brother a loser and a cheeseball because Are You Afraid of the Dark is full of incredible insults. And Denny protests saying,
I'm not a loser, and we're not lost. Look, there's the ridge we came up on. We can circle back and take the red trail. Man, this is whacked.
Oh man, that line reading just never gets old to me. I absolutely love it. Buzz falls off the edge of a cliff and gets himself into a Mufasa Lion King situation that's quickly resolved because Denny's not Scar and doesn't murder his brother. Spoilers. Franks lets us know now that it's getting dark and the boys were just totally and completely lost. Also, it's Canada and summer lasts like 5 minutes there, so of course it's getting cold out too. Buzz has some more issues with the compass and wonders why they haven't found town yet since he's been following it so well, because he is the goodest boy. But Denny pops in asking if he always looks at his compass near his belt like that. Buzz is all, yeah, duh. And Denny informs him that his metal belt buckle is screwing up the magnet of the compass. Okay. Well, they've been going the wrong way the whole ass day. Buzz decides he knows where they're going, so he just runs away from Denny and into a random trail. Denny catches up, of course, and they find somebody in the immediate distance with a flashlight. The two wonder who it could be, and Buzz thinks,
Maybe it's a maniac killer in a hockey mask who's gonna slash us.
The guy flashes the light right in these kids' faces, even though they're lost in the woods and scared. He's just blinding them with this light. I love it. And the kids ask who he is and if he knows where they are. This guy's name is Flynn, and he laughs and asks if the kids are lost, and then gets all cryptic with the kids, who really just want to get back home. Instead of helping them outright, even though he claims to know these woods really well, he tells the kids he'll take them to somebody that can help them. The kids, with nothing better to do, I mean, they're lost in the woods, they follow him into the fog. Along the way, Flynn tells the kids that he's taking them to a doctor who lives out in the woods. The kids bump into him, and Flynn asks how good they are at solving riddles, for no reason in particular. The kids are all, what? And he tells them, you know what, never mind, come on, let's go. They walk up to the doctor's hobbit hole in the woods, and Flynn warns the kids that the doctor's price for helping them is pretty hefty. Then he just straight up disappears, and the kids are all, that was weird. Anyway, let's go check it out. Denny very slowly walks up to the house, but good lord, the leaves shake around him and scream a little, which is absolutely terrifying. The kids get spooked and run to the house and bang on it, and it opens up and we see the doctor is in. He asks if the kids are good at riddles, because that is a thing here, and then he laughs. The kids, of course, are all like, WTF, they're just looking at each other. The doc doesn't care. He walks behind them and pushes them inside his house. Stranger danger really wasn't much of a thing back in the 90s. Inside the hut, there's a whole bunch of bubbling liquids of various colors. Up pops Vink.
Dr. Vink.
Dr. Fink?
Vink with a v.
This is our first reoccurring character in Are You Afraid of the Dark? Vink here is played by the late Aaron Tagger, who appears multiple times as Dr. Vink in the Are You Afraid of the Dark series. He even has a role in an absolutely wild episode of Goosebumps. Anyway, he tells the kids that he studies plants and stuff, and then shows them a brain of a boar, because that's what you do when you're a crazy old man in the woods, I guess. Denny tells him, look, we just want to get home. But Dr. Vink is like, nah, it's time for riddles. How far can you walk into the woods? Denny complains more that he doesn't want to do riddles, but Buzz walks up saying, halfway. After the halfway point, you'd be walking out of the forest. Vink thinks that's a great answer, and Denny goes to use the phone, but Vink tells him, no way, Jose, you kids gotta answer another riddle. He raises up some giant garden shears and is threatening to cut his own phone line, and it's incredible. The kids are like, fine, what's the riddle? Let's get this over with. And it takes Vink a moment to think up a banger of a riddle, but he finally does. He lifts up a barrel and asks,
What is it that has no weight, can be seen by the naked eye, and if you put it in a barrel, it would make the barrel lighter?
The kids think on that for a few seconds here, Buzz going over it out loud. He lifts up his finger, like he knows what he's going to say, and then he says, yeah, I don't know. Vink tells the kids, all right, well, see ya. Buzz complains that the riddle is too hard, which it's not, and Dr. Vink tells them that they have failed just like all the others. He tells the kids to scooch out of there, but once they leave, they can take a left and a taxi cab will be there to pick them up. Denny asks if they can use the phone, and Vink dramatically turns around saying, "Well, I suppose you can just leave me a specimen instead." Then he measures Buzz's head like a weirdo and walks past them. Denny wants to know what kind of specimen, and Vink tells them something super valuable and also something fresh. Something like this. And he lifts up a severed hand in a jar. The kids give a terrible scream into the camera and they run out of there. Vink tells their dust goodbye for now. We cut back over to the Midnight Society now, which was a thing back in season 1 of Are You Afraid of the Dark? It's kind of like a pointless segment where the kids just kind of wonder aloud about the story, or they summarize things a bit for us. I'm not entirely sure why they got rid of these mid-episode Midnight Society bits, but it's probably to make the tales themselves be the star here. After that boring bit, we pop back into the story where we see Denny and Buzz run through the incredibly brightly lit forest when up beeps a taxicab, so the kids just hop on in. They ask the driver to take them into town, and away it rolls. We get a good look at the driver, and it's our old pal Flynn from earlier in the episode. He explains that he gives rides to people that can't answer Dr. Vink's riddles, and this exact thing happened to Flynn himself 40 years ago. We cut over to the taxicab barreling around the forest like a maniac, and Denny tells him to slow down. Flynn explains even further that he gave Dr. Vink a ride up to his cabin, and the doctor was going to give him a big tip if he could solve a riddle. Flynn couldn't, I guess, so instead of paying this guy, Dr. Vink took a specimen from him. I mean, that doesn't seem right, but the specimen in question is, of course, Flynn's hand. Flynn says he totally got off easy, and for 40 years, he's been bringing people here to solve his riddles, and that Dr. Vink just really needs more specimens. Also, before the doctor took his hand, he had himself a little accident. He crashed into a big tree and
I sort of died!
the kids scream because that's terrifying and beg Flynn to stop the car. Flynn doesn't do that and tells the kids every single night he has another accident with a new person in the taxi cab. He adds that the kids probably heard some of his other victims near Dr. Vink's cabin. Buzz deduces that that's what was shaking those leaves and causing all those spooky noises. Flynn tells the kids no one can leave until somebody solves that incredibly simple riddle. But whatever, the accident we're about to get in is going to be a doozy. Buzz gets on to thinking about solving that riddle, since if he solves it, everything will be hunky-dory. But gosh darn it, even Denny strangling him doesn't get his brain juices flowing. They argue some more until after about forever, Buzz finally figures out the answer and answers it as slowly as possible. The answer, of course, being a hole. They are just about to crash when everything flashes and the kids spill to the ground. Denny gives Buzz a big ol' feel-good hug, and there's another light that shines up on them. This time it's a Jeep being driven by a forest ranger or something, and he claims the whole town and their parents are in an uproar looking for these kids. They hop inside, and Buzz asks the guy how he is with riddles. Okay, Buzz, you almost just died there, kid. Back at the campfire, Frank here finishes up his story, and the Midnight Society all look around at each other. Gary tells them, alright, it's time to vote. Thumbs up is good, thumbs down means it sucks. The kids all give their thumbs up one at a time, and just like that, Frank's into the club. Now, I gotta say, I love these shows. I talk about them all the time, whether it's on Twitter, on Instagram, or Facebook. I think Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps are some of the best introductions to horror for children, and I like to think it's not just because I have those rose-tinted nostalgia glasses on. I've introduced this show to my own kid, and the results have been really great. These are fantastic shows to introduce a child to the fun and the creativeness of the horror genre. Are You Afraid of the Dark went on to win awards for having a diverse cast, which is fantastic. It's a beautiful show for representation, along with giving some very scary moments and always allowing the kids to shine. They're the ones solving the problems, and in most cases, the adults just aren't around or they are actively unhelpful. Almost all of these episodes also have really great morals for the kids to learn. In the podcast, we make jokes about these, like never trusting ghosts or not stepping foot in the Canadian woods where people go missing literally every day, but there are a lot of really great life lessons that you can learn here, and I think this was really one of the main points for these shows. Along with that, we can see ourselves in the episode, whether we're bumbling losers like Buzz, who just need a moment to truly shine, or we're the older brother Denny, who actively makes their little brother's lives unbearable, but we just need to kind of chill out for a second. Are You Afraid of the Dark did a really great job of crafting relatable characters that you can really root for, that you want to win. On the flip side, they also do make some characters that are just the worst. Sam from The Tale of the Crimson Clown is literally the main villain of Are You Afraid of the Dark, and I am prepared to die on that hill, but that's a different tale for another episode. The Tale of the Phantom Cab introduces us to so many iconic Are You Afraid of the Dark tropes and characters, Not only do we get to meet the Midnight Society in an awesome way, I mean, we're essentially inducted into the club ourselves. Of course, there's also the recurring Dr. Vink that we get to meet here, who played a pivotal role in most of Frank's tales, from Midnight Madness to Dangerous Soup to Cutter's Treasure. It really sets the bar for what this show is all about. Kids getting into spooky and dangerous situations and using their wits to save themselves. While there can be some truly dark and disturbing endings with some of these tales, because the show really goes for it sometimes, Phantom Cab has a perfect ending. The kids don't die in a terrible car explosion, and they save the souls of everybody for the past 40 years in this woods. It's great, and again, was a perfect introduction for the show for everybody. Are there more episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark or Goosebumps that you'd like me to discuss in video form? Please let me know. Leave a comment below with a particular episode you'd like me to talk about. And remember...
And I am not a nutbag.
Hey there everyone, thanks so much for watching my first video episode of Up All Night. If you really enjoyed my content and want a much more in-depth look at every episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, and Tales from the Crypt, check out my podcast. It's Up All Night, a horror anthology podcast, where my best friend and I detail every scene and line from every episode of your favorite shows. I do want to shout out our lovely patrons for helping support our show and our content. We've been able to really upgrade our audio equipment and make our show the best it can be thanks to their help. If you'd like to become a patron and help out our show, you can visit patreon.com/privateisland. If you can't, I totally understand, and word of mouth is so big for helping us out. Likes, shares, and comments make a world of difference, and it's always appreciated. Thanks again for spending some time with me, and I hope you enjoyed my very first video. If you did, please let me know so I can make some more videos in the near future. Until next time, I've been Up All Night. Bye, everybody.